A group of Puritan-clad reenactors marched through rainy Plymouth streets for a Thanksgiving Day tradition, Pilgrim's Progress.
We didn't expect to be able to walk past Plymouth Rock where the Pilgrims landed or up Leiden Street to Town Square. We weren't able to make it up to the top of Burial Hill, which would have been the location where the Pilgrims actually met for worship in their meeting house. But we had a great service right in Town Square.
6. Bow down thine ear, Jehovah, answer me. Bow down thine ear, Jehovah, answer me.
Well, I'm here with a group of men, women, and children to commemorate the Pilgrim's March or Walk to Worship in 1621 after surviving that first winter. And this is a tradition that's been going on here in Plymouth since 1921. I came here in 2013 to be the director of the Mayflower Society for a few years before retiring, and I became aware of the progress, what it was doing, and thought this was a very nice opportunity to get involved and to help commemorate the event.
And why do you think something like this is important to put on every year?
Well, it's important for us as a people to remember our traditions, our past. Of course, it's a complicated past, but this is a part of it, and a way to reconnect with the period, and also an opportunity for people to come together in fellowship.
Prayer, but guard that prayer with thanksgiving.
I think one of the key things that's important to preserve in our nation today is the fact that the Pilgrims came here because of their faith. They came because of their desire to follow what they believed were strict biblical principles and to be able to live those out. And so I think that's what this does, Pilgrim Progress, because we're reenacting them going to church. And that was, of course, made very famous with a painting of the Pilgrims on their way to church, going house to house. And it came from an actual eyewitness account in 1627 when Isaac de Regia came here as an individual, and he watched them go to church and wrote it down, and that's what we're reenacting.
Who are you today?
Elizabeth Telly.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about Elizabeth.
She was 14 years old, and she had 12 kids.
Okay, so is this your first time in the Pilgrim's Progress event? Or?
No.
Oh, you've done this before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so why do you like to do this so much?
I love to do this because it's important to me, because the founding fathers were the Pilgrims, and they worshiped God, and they founded America.
For many onlookers, this is a holiday tradition.
I come every year because it's a family tradition. We come the whole family, and it's the beautiful start of our Thanksgiving.
Well, the Pilgrim's Progress now heading back to the Mayflower Society headquarters, and they will perform this event once again later in August.
During the march, they pass the site of another event taking place that day, the National Day of Mourning.
So the National Day of Mourning was founded in 1970 by my grandfather, Wamsutta Frank James. He had been invited to speak by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to speak at a banquet commemorating the 350th anniversary of the arrival of the Pilgrims. He went away, he wrote a speech. They didn't like the speech because it wasn't very complimentary. It told the truth about Thanksgiving, and so he was barred from speaking at the event, and he and a group of other Native people decided that they wanted to create a day where Native peoples can speak for themselves and speak the truth about our history. So that's what National Day of Mourning is.
The event included a land acknowledgement.
I'm going to read the recent Plymouth Public Schools land acknowledgement. We are doing that because so far the town of Plymouth has refused to adopt a similar land acknowledgement because too many town officials and residents are apparently concerned that a simple land acknowledgement could lead to reparations and loss of their real estate holdings. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the unceded ancestral homeland of Indigenous peoples, whose enduring presence we humbly recognize. We honor the Wampanoag people as the original stewards and the Herring Pond Wampanoag as the surviving tribe indigenous to these lands.
And a speaker who urged continuing the fight in a peaceful manner.
If there is something that we take in our heart and in our minds today, is that to keep working together, fighting together, struggling together. It doesn't necessarily mean destruction, you know. We have too many examples of destruction all over. You know, the revolution in Cuba, the fall of apartheid, the revolution in Nicaragua, and look today now. Look, really open your eyes. It's just too many orphans, too many widows, too much blood.
Hundreds attended despite the rainy weather.
I've been coming here for probably the past 50 years. You know, like Frank was a cousin of mine, and I think my father and my uncle, he was there during those first. The reason why they created this National Day of Mourning, you know, just to say that the Pilgrim story isn't always correct. So they really need to hear the native side. You know, so. Yeah, and so we all have been coming up here every year, you know, depending on, no matter, you know, what the weather was. You know, I can just come out here and communicate or, you know, commune with each other, and then a lot of people go back and do what they do. It's been an interesting history.
I am here because I really like learning about Indigenous people. I'm reading how to be anti-racist and Indigenous people's history of the United States, and I care about the matter, so I like being here.
And some believe there's room for both observances.
I have a great aunt who wanted to be Mayflower, and she did the family research, and I grew up knowing that we have some connections to the history, but I didn't think we had that connection until I did my own research, and I found out there were descendants of Stephen Hopkins through the son Giles. And then I also found that there was a Deborah Wampanoag. Well, my Aunt Lou didn't want any Wampanoag at all, and there was like, no, we can't have that. There's like, my mom was like, there's this secret Indian in our family history, but nobody knows who or where. And I'm like, well, that's why Aunt Lou didn't finish her Mayflower application. She found Deborah Wampanoag, and so I did the research. I found out, yes, we do have a connection to the Mayflower, the connections with Stephen Hopkins, and yes, the history's complicated. And so when we're celebrating the Pilgrims surviving, and we're walking past the Massasoit statues, and folks from the Day of Mourning are up there making all this noise, they should. They're entitled. The history's complicated. There's been 50 years of truce after the Pilgrims landed, and they think that Hopkins was a big part of being able to have the truce with the Wampanoag. Unfortunately, they couldn't keep it. And I'm very glad that there is a land back movement. I'm very glad that tribes and local bands, the Herring Pond Band just got state recognition. I'm happy to see people are putting Native presence back on the map and back into the history and seeing both and.
Well, the rain is continuing to fall here, but the National Day of Mourning is continuing, and organizers say they will be back again next year to continue this tradition. Reporting from the National Day of Mourning at Coles Hill in Plymouth, Dan McCready, WATD News.